The storm rolled across the Kansas plains like a living beast, swallowing the stars in its fury. Lightning forked through the night sky, lighting up the field around Braceto's aging farmhouse. He stood inside his barn, arms deep in the belly of a broken-down generator, sleeves rolled up and shirt soaked with sweat and rain. The storm didn't bother him. He liked the distraction, liked the noise. Out here, miles from the nearest neighbor, thunder felt like the only conversation he still understood. The roof creaked, wind clawed at the edges of the structure, and Bristow glanced up, nothing he hadn't heard 100 times before. He turned back to the generator, flicked a switch. Sparks sputtered, but no hum followed. Of course not. The storm had taken out the power again. He sighed, grabbing a wrench. Then the sky screamed. A flash of silver tore through the clouds, trailing fire and something unnatural. The impact hit, like a bomb. The roof exploded inward in a shower of wood, tin, and sparks. Bristow was thrown backward, slammed against the wall, the breath punched out of him. Smoke curled through the air, mixing with dust and steam from the shattered waterline. His ears rang. He forced himself upright, hand groping for the flashlight hanging by the door. Where the barn's roof had been was now a gaping hole. In the center of the wreckage, half buried in scorched earth and hay, was something that hadn't come from Earth. A pod, smooth, seamless, glowing faintly blue. Not a satellite, not a drone. It pulsed like a heartbeat. He took a step closer. The hatch hissed open. She fell out like a broken star. Her body struck the ground with a dull thud. She lay still, silver-blue skin streaked with mud and blood, her form wrapped in a tight, reflective suit that looked alive. Her hair shimmered like threads of starlight, tangled and damp, splayed across the cracked floorboards. Then she moved, barely, raising, her head with effort. Bristow didn't move. His instinct screamed at him to run, to get the shotgun, to call someone. But he didn't. He just stared as her eyes found him, pale violet, glowing faintly. She blinked once, slowly, as if calibrating. "Reality, containment," she rasped. "Your atmosphere is corrosive. I require containment." Bristow swallowed. "You speak English? Your language is embedded." Her voice was oddly melodic, yet heavy with fatigue. She tried to push herself up and failed, collapsing. Onto her side. A strange shimmer pulsed across her skin, like static caught in a soap bubble. "You're hurt." She gave him a look that almost resembled sarcasm. "Your observation skills are adequate." Despite everything, Bristow stepped forward and crouched. "Can you stand?" "I must." She tried again, and this time he caught her before she fell. Her skin was warmer than it should have been, fever hot, and beneath the shimmer, he could feel her trembling. Up close, she smelled faintly of ozone and something floral, alien but oddly pleasant. "What the hell are you?" She looked at him. "Capri. I was a crown diplomat of Orenthian descent. I have no weapons, no forces, only this body and fading energy. They will find me if I remain exposed." Bracetow's jaw tightened. "Who's they?" A low hum began in the distance, like the engine of something hovering just beyond the clouds. Capri's eyes widened slightly. "Them." Bristow didn't ask more questions. He threw her arm over his shoulder, gritting his teeth against the heat rolling off her. Together, they limped toward the house, rain soaking them both. Lightning lanced across the fields again, painting the world in momentary white. The sound of rotors or engines, or something worse, grew louder behind them. He kicked the door open and led her down into the storm cellar, the heavy door slamming shut overhead. The room below was crude but insulated, lined with tools, supplies, and the remnants of a life lived on the margins. Capri collapsed onto the cot in the corner, exhaling sharply. Bristow lit a lantern. The glow danced across her face, casting alien shadows. Her skin had dulled slightly, but her breathing stabilized. "Why here?" he asked. She looked up, eyes softening. "You were off-grid. No electronic records, no digital trail. I chose this place because your world has forgotten you." He studied her, something old and aching twisting in his chest. "Yeah, it has." Outside, thunder growled like a warning. Inside, the storm had just begun. The cellar was damp and quiet, the only sound the slow drip of rain through a crack. In the far corner, Braistow stood beside the cot, arms crossed, watching the strange woman breathing heavily, her skin flickering between shades of silver and faint blue. Her energy pulsed in time with her breath, like a living power source trying to stabilize. He had seen engines short-circuit, batteries overheat, turbines catch fire, but never a person behave like that. Capri opened her eyes, barely glowing now. "Your shelter is crude," she said, voice strained, "but it is insulated. The radiation levels are tolerable here." "Well, I didn't build it for space aliens," Braistow muttered, tossing her a folded thermal blanket. "It was meant for tornadoes." She caught the blanket with shaky fingers, staring at it like it was an artifact. "This fabric is inefficient. No molecular insulation, no plasma dispersion lining. It's a blanket, not a force field. Wrap it around yourself or freeze." She didn't argue. Wrapping it around her shoulders, she leaned back against the concrete wall. Her posture was stiff, regal even now, but exhaustion weighed her down. Braistow noticed the way her shoulders trembled every few minutes, the way her jaw clenched whenever thunder rolled outside. "You said they're after you. Who are they?" Capri exhaled slowly. "The Sineth fleet, Royal Command, my own people. I took something they were not ready to lose." "What?" "A stabilizer, compact but potent, designed to draw power from planetary cores. They want to test it here, on Earth." Braistow frowned. "Why Earth?" She met his eyes. "Your planet's core vibrates at a rare frequency, rich in harmonic resonance, ideal for harvesting, but unstable. The test would trigger massive tectonic shifts. Oceans would rise, cities would fall." "And you stole the thing to stop that?" "Yes." She said it simply, like it was obvious. Like risking death, crashing through a planet's atmosphere, and begging a stranger for help was the only option left. He sat on a wooden crate across from her, rubbing the back of his neck. "Why not take it somewhere else? Some empty rock in space?" "Because they'd follow, and use it again. Earth is primitive by their standards. No fleet, no defense grid. You're invisible to the galaxy, but very convenient." Braistow chuckled bitterly. "Yeah, that sounds about right." Capri tilted her head. "You don't seem surprised." "I'm not. I've seen people do worse for less." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "So what now? You just hide in my cellar forever?" "No." Her glow brightened slightly. "I only need time. To recover, to stabilize my energy field. Then I'll contact my allies. There are others who oppose the fleet's methods." "Allies?" Braistow repeated. "They nearby?" "No. But with the artifact and the right signal, they can find me." He shook his head. "You're not getting that signal out from underground. Nothing works down here. It's a Faraday box." "I know." She looked at the ceiling, her expression tightening. "But going outside now would reveal my position." Braistow stood up. "I'll figure something out." "Why?" Capri asked suddenly. He paused. "What?" "Why help me?" Her tone wasn't accusing. It was genuinely confused. "You didn't know me. I could have been a threat." He looked at her for a moment. "You fell through my roof in a ball of fire and asked for help. Didn't seem like a trap. And I've been alone out here long enough to know when someone's desperate." Capri watched him silently, the flicker in her skin softening. "What's your name?" she asked. Braistow. She repeated it slowly, like tasting the shape of it. You sound like an old-world sentinel. I was an Air Force mechanic. 12 years. Got tired of people breaking things just to say they could. She nodded. I broke your barn, he smirked. Yeah, you did. She actually smiled. Just a little. I'll repair it when I can. He shrugged. Don't worry about it. I hated that roof anyway. They sat in silence for a while. The storm raged above them, but in the shelter it felt distant, muted by concrete and quiet understanding. Capri's eyes closed again. Her breathing slowed, steadied. Braistow leaned back against the wall, arms folded. He didn't trust easily. But something about her, maybe the way she admitted weakness, or how she still carried herself like she mattered, kept him from walking away. Maybe he saw a reflection of himself, once capable, now hiding from a world that had moved on. And maybe, just maybe, she hadn't fallen into his barn by accident. The wind outside had quieted to a low howl, but Braistow felt the shift in the air long before he heard the sound. He stood at the cellar hatch, hand resting on the metal latch, body tense. Something was wrong. The silence wasn't natural. It pressed against the barn like a held breath. He climbed the steps quietly and pushed the door open an inch, peering out into the night. Rain dripped from the eaves. The field stretched dark and empty, but the clouds glowed faintly from within, pulsing like a heartbeat. No thunder, no lightning. Just a low vibration underfoot, so soft it could have been imagination. Except Braistow didn't believe in coincidence. He stepped fully outside, boots sinking slightly into the wet soil. The hairs on his arms rose as a hum passed through the barn walls. He turned toward the field, eyes narrowing. A black triangle hovered above the horizon, perfectly still, utterly silent. No engine noise, no running lights, just a shimmer around its edges, like heat warping the air. A cold certainty settled into Braistow's gut. They had found her. He bolted back into the cellar, descending fast enough to startle Capri, who had been sitting cross-legged on the cot with her eyes half closed, meditating or possibly stabilizing herself again. "They're here," he said, grabbing the canvas bag he kept for emergencies. "Some kind of ship, low altitude, no sound." Capri stood immediately, energy flaring across her skin in warning pulses. "Did it scan us?" "Not sure yet, but it's not human. Then we need to move. I thought going outside revealed your position." "It already knows," she said. "Which means hiding here is suicide." Braistow tossed her his spare jacket. "Put that on. Try to glow less." She wrapped the oversized coat around her jumpsuit. Her skin dimmed until only a faint shimmer remained. "We won't outrun them on foot," Braistow said. "But we might outmaneuver them." He led her up into the storm again. The triangle above had lowered, its surface now rippling with dull blue light. As they reached the barn, a beam of pale energy swept across the ground in a slow arc, searching. Braistow slammed open the side door to his workshop and yanked a tarp off an old utility terrain vehicle. He'd rebuilt it from scrap years ago, armored tires, reinforced frame, and a stripped-down control panel that ran on nothing connected to a grid. Capri slid into the passenger seat as he cranked the ignition. The engine sputtered once, then roared to life. Without hesitation, Braistow slammed his foot on the gas and peeled out of the barn, wheels spitting mud. The blue beam shifted instantly, locking onto them. "They're tracking my signal," Capri said, voice tight. "I'm emitting too much residual charge. Can you dampen it? I can try." Before she finished, a sharp hiss split the sky. A small orb launched from beneath the hovering craft, glowing like a dying star. It accelerated toward them, with terrifying speed. "Hold on," Braistow barked, veering off the dirt road and plunging into the cornfield. Stalks whipped the windshield. The ATV bounced violently as they tore through uneven terrain. The orb closed the distance. Capri raised her hand. A spark jumped from her palm, jagged and unstable. It's not enough. I'm still depleted. Then conserve it, Braistow growled, swerving toward a wooded ridge. I'll lose them another way. Branches scratched the sides of the vehicle. They ducked beneath low-hanging limbs, leaves scattering in their wake. Behind them, the orb burst through the corn like a cannonball. Capri braced herself against the door, panting. There's a mine. I scanned it when I arrived. Underground. Collapsed, but partially navigable. Where? South slope of that. Ridge. 400 meters. Braistow turned the wheel hard, tires skidding as they swung toward the hill. The orb gained on them, pulsing faster. Capri ripped off the jacket and reached into her jumpsuit, pulling out a small, crystal-shaped device. I can reroute my field into this, she muttered, but it will sting. Blue light surged from the orb. A sharp sound like glass fracturing echoed around them. Braistow reached the ridge and floored the engine. The vehicle slammed through a fallen fence and into a shallow tunnel carved into the hillside. The orb fired. Energy burst around the entrance, charring rock. They plunged into darkness. The engine cut as Braistow slammed the brakes inside the old mining corridor. Dust fell from the ceiling. Outside, the orb hovered at the entrance, unable to follow. A high-pitched whine filled the air, then faded. They were safe. Temporarily. Capri slumped in her seat, breathing hard, her hands trembling. Braistow leaned, back, chest heaving. That was close. She nodded, sweat glistening on her forehead. Too close. He turned to her. You all right? Depleted, but intact. Braistow opened the rear panel and grabbed 2 canteens. He handed her one and took a long drink from the other. The silence inside the mine was unnerving. Dust danced in their headlights. After a moment, she spoke. You've done more for me than anyone in my own species ever has. I didn't do it for you, he muttered, but there was no heat in his voice. Why then? He stared into the dark tunnel ahead. I don't know. But when I saw that thing falling toward us, and you trying to stop it with half a spark, I couldn't just leave you. Capri looked down at the device in her hand. A soft glow pulsed through it, barely noticeable, but real. She looked back, up at him. My energy field responded to you, during the chase. That shouldn't be possible. Braistow raised an eyebrow. What does that mean? I'm not sure, she whispered, but it might be the only reason I'm still alive. The mine's air was stale and thick, hanging heavy with the scent of damp rock and rusted metal. Braistow lit a portable lantern from his pack and set it on a shelf carved into the wall. A soft golden light spilled across the chamber, casting jagged shadows that danced along the uneven walls. Capri sat with her back against the stone, her legs drawn up, arms resting loosely on her knees. Her skin no longer glowed. Now it shimmered faintly, as though her body were conserving every particle of energy it could manage. Braistow knelt by the tunnel's collapsed end, feeling the vibrations with a flat palm. No movement, no sound. Whatever had been tracking them hadn't entered. Still, he didn't relax. You've been in worse places? He asked without turning. Capri looked up slowly. I've woken up inside cryo capsules mid-malfunction. Had a landing pod breach atmosphere without heat shielding. Spent 3 hours drifting in orbit after an escort mission went wrong. He glanced over his shoulder. So, yes. She nodded, then smiled faintly. Though this mine ranks lower in sanitation, Braistow chuckled under his breath. It's not much, but it's quiet. That's rare out here. Capri leaned her head back against the rock. Quiet is good. It means we're not dead yet. Yao returned to sit beside her, pulling out a small can of preserved peaches and offering it to her. I've watched enough sci-fi to know aliens don't eat canned fruit. But this is all I've got. She took it carefully, examining the container. We consume organic sugars, though your planet's preservatives are rather questionable. Still sweeter than space dust. She used her fingernail to pierce the seal with surprising ease. then tasted the syrup. Her expression shifted, something between curiosity and astonishment. "This is oddly comforting," Braistow smirked. "Yeah, peaches will do that." They sat in silence a while longer, the only sound the soft tapping of water somewhere, deeper in the mine. Then Capri spoke again, her voice quieter than before. "You've lost someone." Braistow didn't respond right away. Instead, he stared into the lantern light, jaw tightening. Her name was Leah. Cancer. Young. Too young. Capri said nothing, waiting. "She was a nurse," he continued. "Sunrise kind of person. Believed in fixing people. Stayed until her last day, smiling like she was protecting us from her own pain." His voice cracked slightly, but he kept going. "After she passed, the world just got louder, meaner. I moved out here to keep the noise away." Capri looked at him gently. "I'm sorry," he nodded. "You're the first person I've talked to about her in 5 years." She set the can aside, leaned a little closer. "I wasn't bred for empathy. My position required diplomacy, analysis, instruction. But your emotions, they affect me. Like gravity." He tilted his head. "What does that mean?" Capri reached into her jumpsuit again, revealing the same compact crystal from before. It was clearer now, slightly luminous. She held it between them. "This artifact shouldn't respond to Terran biofields, but in your presence it harmonizes. Earlier during the chase, the charge leveled out only when you focused on me, not fear, not anger. Something else." Braistow frowned. "So what? You're saying I've got magic emotions?" Capri's lips curved slightly. "No, I'm saying your emotional frequency stabilizes energy flow." "That sounds dangerously close to science flirting." She laughed. Short, but real. Her posture eased. "You're different from what we were taught." "Let me guess," he replied. "Primitive, violent, unpredictable, and easily influenced by desire," she added playfully. But yes, that was the consensus. Braistow rubbed his hands together for warmth. "What changed your mind?" "You let me inside." "You're home," she said simply. "No questions, no proof, just instinct. I've been burned by people with credentials and polished words. I trust gut feelings now." Capri turned her attention back to the crystal. "I think, if we can amplify this connection, I might be able to overload the fleet's tracking tech. Short-circuit their sensors. It would buy us time." "You mean use our feelings as a power source?" In a manner of speaking. Braistow blinked. "This has got to be the weirdest relationship arc I've ever been in." Capri tilted her head. "Is that what this is?" He opened his mouth, then shut it again. A faint blush crept up his neck. She seemed amused, but didn't push. "Perhaps we should test the theory." Braistow hesitated. "How?" She reached out, taking his hand gently, guiding it over the surface of the crystal. Instantly, the chamber brightened, the artifact humming with golden light. Her skin responded in kind, glowing warmer, as if drawing power directly from the bond between them. He swallowed. "That wasn't just electricity." Capri met his gaze. "No, it wasn't." Outside, thunder boomed again. The earth trembled faintly. Braistow pulled his hand back. "If we're going to use this connection, we should be careful. They're probably already adapting. They will return stronger," she agreed. "Next time they won't hesitate." He stood and reached for his pack. "Then we hit first. My cabin's still standing. It's remote, high ground. If we prepare the right defenses, we might hold them off." Capri rose beside him. "And if we fail?" "We won't." She studied his face for a moment. "You're certain?" "I've got nothing left to lose," he said. "But you've got something they're afraid of. That means you matter." She touched his arm lightly, her glow softening to a delicate hue. Then we fight. Together. Bristow nodded once, firm and calm. They gathered what they could, extinguished the lantern, and slipped back into the night. Two fugitives, one human, one not, bound by shared defiance and something neither fully understood yet. The road to the cabin wound through thick woods, half obscured by overgrowth and littered with fallen branches. Bristow drove with one hand on the wheel and the other ready near the makeshift console he'd rewired for emergencies. Capri sat beside him, unusually quiet, her fingers wrapped around the crystal now glowing a soft amber in her lap. Every bump in the path jostled her slightly, but she didn't complain. Her focus was locked on the artifact, as though it required more than just her grip, like it needed her full attention to remain stable. The trees thinned at the crest of the ridge. His cabin came into view, dark and sturdy against the slate-colored sky. The structure wasn't much, 2 rooms, metal, shutters, reinforced locks, but it was isolated and defensible. That was all that mattered now. Bristow pulled the vehicle to a stop beneath the lean-to beside the cabin and cut the engine. The sudden silence made Capri glance up, eyes cautious. "We don't have long," she said. "Their tracking systems will recalibrate soon. Then we work fast." They hurried inside. Bristow secured the doors, checked the hidden motion sensors he'd embedded around the perimeter, then opened a trapdoor in the floor leading to a narrow utility cellar. Capri followed, taking in every detail like she was mapping the entire structure in her mind. "This place is fortified," she said. "It's kept me off the grid for 7 years. No power lines, no internet, barely any heat. No one comes up here." She placed the crystal on the table, running a scanner device over it. "The resonance is stable, for now, but it won't hold once they're within field range." Then we turn the odds. Bristow crossed to a crate, pried it open, and began pulling out metal components. Spools of copper wire, shortwave antennas, old military-grade capacitors. Capri arched an eyebrow. "You've built weapons before." "Not exactly weapons," he said. "Signal disruptors, EMP triggers, pulse scramblers, tools meant to confuse rather than kill." Her expression darkened. "They won't hesitate to kill." "I know." He looked at her. "But that doesn't mean we have to become them." They worked side by side, piecing together the rough framework of a directed energy scrambler. Capri adjusted the resonance output using her internal regulator. Bristow rewired an old tractor alternator to act as a power loop, reinforcing the charge. As they calibrated the field harmonics, a low sound began building outside, distant, mechanical, unnatural. Capri froze. "They've arrived." Bristow moved to the wall and opened the shutter just enough to see. A sleek vessel hovered just beyond the tree line. Its surface rippled like oil on water, and sharp blue beams scanned the forest. 3 armored figures disembarked, their movements synchronized and efficient. "They're looking for you." "No," Capri said, stepping back from the window. "They're looking for the crystal. They assume I can't function without it." Glanced at the artifact. "They right?" "Partially. Without emotional amplification, I can't control its output. Alone, it's too unstable." Bristow picked up his old bolt-action rifle and loaded a magazine. "Then we stay connected." She hesitated. "Bristow, if the surge overloads, it'll hit everything in range, including us. I've seen enough death. If we stop them, it's worth the risk." She met his eyes, her glow softening. "You're braver than you admit." "I'm too tired to be scared." The beams swept closer, illuminating patches of earth with eerie precision. The armored figures moved through the woods, their gauntlets glowing faintly. Capri activated the scrambler. The crystal pulsed, syncing with her and Bristow's shared touch. A low hum filled the room, spreading out in all directions. Outside, the lights from the ship flickered. "They've noticed the distortion," she whispered. "We only get one shot." The first hunter stepped into view, weapon drawn. Braistow knelt at the window and squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out, not to kill, but to stagger. The bullet struck the hunter's shoulder, sending sparks flying. It stumbled, recovered quickly, then raised its own weapon. A beam lanced toward the cabin. It struck the porch, instantly freezing the railing and exploding it into icy shards. Braistow ducked back, heart hammering. "We need more output," Capri said, tightening her grip on the crystal. "Then push it." The energy flared. Light bled from her skin, now nearly white gold, and laced through his arms where their hands met. The surge fed the scrambler, amplifying the field into a sharp sonic pulse. Outside, the hunters staggered. One fell to a knee, armor crackling. Capri cried out, pain flashing across her face. "Too much. The frequency is peaking." "Hold it just a little longer," Braistow said through clenched teeth. Another wave burst from the emitter. The air vibrated, windows cracked. The ship outside groaned as its hull shimmered violently, its cloaking struggling to hold. Then the front door exploded inward. One of the hunters burst through, weapon raised. Capri collapsed, too drained to move. Braistow dropped the rifle and charged. He tackled the intruder, slamming it into the far wall. They wrestled, but the hunter had more strength. It threw him back, raising its gauntlet. A bolt of green light struck it from the side. Capri stood, barely upright, arm outstretched. Her whole body glowed with radiant heat. The hunter convulsed, then crumpled. Braistow crawled to her. "You shouldn't be standing." "Had to," she whispered. "I won't let them take this world." He wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Outside, the ship shuddered again. Smoke curled from its vents. The remaining intruders retreated, dragging their fallen comrade with them. The vessel rose slowly, engines sputtering. "Field collapse in 60 seconds, Capri said faintly. "We overloaded their core." "You did?" "No, Braistow." She looked up at him, her face glowing with something more than light. "We did." Together, they watched as the ship veered into the clouds, crippled but not destroyed. The threat wasn't gone, but for now, Earth was safe. And in the silence that followed, so were they. Smoke still curled from the tree line as Braistow helped Capri down the porch steps. The air smelled of ozone and scorched pine. A faint hum echoed from the retreating ship, growing distant until it finally vanished beyond the horizon. The early light of dawn pushed through the fading night, bathing the wrecked cabin in golden hues. The battle was over, for now. Capri's steps were unsteady. Her glow had dimmed to a fragile silver, flickering like a candle near the end of its wick. Braistow kept a steady arm around her waist, supporting her without saying a word. She leaned into him, not out of weakness, but trust. The crystal, now cold and dull, hung from a cord around her neck. Its power had been spent, its role finished. They made it back into the house, or what was left of it. The front door was gone, the walls scorched, windows cracked. Inside, furniture lay overturned, the floor dusted in shattered glass and ash. Despite the destruction, Braistow exhaled slowly and set her gently on the couch. She winced, but offered a tired smile. "I believe I owe you repairs." "You owe me a new roof," he said, crouching beside her. Again. Her laugh was weak but real. "You humans have strange priorities. Shelter's sacred out here." She tilted her head, studying him through heavy eyelids. "You risked everything, your home, your life. I've lived out here for years, pretending I didn't care about anything anymore. Then you fell through the roof and proved I was lying." Her expression softened. "I didn't mean to crash into your life." "Yeah, well, you did." They sat in silence for a while, the soft creaking of the damaged cabin filling the spaces between their words. Outside, the birds were beginning to return, tentative and curious. Life always came back, even after chaos. Capri shifted slightly, her hand resting on the edge of his. "There's still more. Valrek won't give up. He'll send others, stronger ones. Then we prepare, Bristow said. We build something better than a barricade, a warning, a message. You can't fight an empire. Not with guns, but maybe with truth. She looked down at the inactive crystal. The artifact can no longer power itself, but it still contains a data lattice, a memory core. If I can transfer its contents to something Earth-made, we might expose what they've done across the galaxy. You said it reacts to emotion, right? Yes. Strong resonance accelerates activation. The more we trust, the more stable it becomes. Bristow picked up the crystal, turning it over in his palm. And how do we do that? Capri's eyes gleamed, not with energy, but something deeper. By being honest. He looked at her, quiet, for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, I'll go first. Capri straightened slightly, curious. I didn't want to help you at first, he admitted. Thought you were a threat. But then you looked at me like I wasn't invisible, like I was still worth something. I didn't know how much I missed that. Her glow deepened, warm and steady. You never stopped being worthy. She reached up and pressed her palm over his, closing his fingers around the crystal. Its surface pulsed gently, light blooming from within, like a sleeping sun waking for the first time in ages. And you? He asked quietly. I was raised, never to need anyone. Trained to negotiate, never to feel. But you saw through the mask. And for the first time, I didn't have to pretend. The crystal brightened between them, threads of gold running across its surface. It lifted slightly, from his hand, suspended in the air, resonating with their shared truth. Tiny lines of data began to scroll across its edges, visible only for an instant before sinking into the crystal's core. It's sinking, Capri whispered, recording everything we've said, every emotion, every choice. Good, Bristow said, then let them see it. The glow faded slowly, the crystal now warm and humming quietly. Capri reached out, placing it in a lead-lined pouch she pulled from her suit. We'll transmit it from orbit, when the time's right. And until then? Capri looked at the ruined cabin, then at him. We rebuild. Together? If you'll have me, he nodded. There's a spare room, she grinned. Don't be so quick to separate us. We've already shared enough emotional frequencies to qualify as cohabitation. He rolled his eyes. I'll teach you Earth sarcasm later. Only if I get to show you galactic star charts. And perhaps proper uses for human furniture. His brows rose. Still on the couch thing, huh? Always. Outside, the sunlight grew stronger, cutting through the lingering smoke, casting fresh light on a new beginning. The world hadn't ended. It had just shifted, changed, like them. Bristow stood and extended a hand. Come on, we've got work to do. Capri took it, rising carefully. Her glow steadied. Lead the way, Earthman. They stepped onto the porch together, eyes forward, hands joined, past smoldering wreckage and into whatever strange, beautiful future lay ahead.